All right, folks, we're going to be starting in just a few moments. Give me a second. And I'm hoping everyone is well. It's Monday. All right. So, good afternoon, everybody. Today is May 4th. It's 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I am Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you on No Soundbites Allowed. And I hope that everyone is well and that we've had a good weekend. I know there's a lot of good weather, especially here in central New York, which doesn't happen a whole lot. And matter of fact, it reversed. Was 70 yesterday. It's about 50 right now. Gotta love central New York weather. But today I'm getting on with you, and I want to have a conversation with everybody. Mind you, I am looking for all the comments, all the commentary from everybody. I'm double checking I have Twitter in front of me. I have Facebook, which can be reached at Voss Political Commentary. You can reach me, of course, and call in at the 607-242-1582, which is our direct line for the show. And, well, making sure my phones are all set here. I apologize if it's off. So that if you call in, you can be on the show as well. And, well, the battery's dead. We're getting that set up for you. In addition to that, we always look forward to hearing your comments because you matter the most. Now, today, what we want to talk about, or I want to go over, is there's a slew of things that I want to discuss. I'm going to try and take this one by one and try and cover a bunch of issues. And hopefully we can make some sense of things going forward. And I especially want to hear what your thoughts are. Now, I'm going to be speaking about the Michael Moore film, or his executive produced film, Planet of the Humans. And there's a few thoughts I have about that, and I'm going to be speaking about that with you shortly. But before we get to that, what I want to go over is just bring ourselves all up to date. I know almost everybody can remember, we're aware that recently there was a lot of news out that was telling us about the doom and gloom of everything that's going on. Matter of fact, you may recall it wasn't too long ago, it was April 28th, that we were being told that there are models out there predicting that the death toll would be even higher if states would open up America. If people were to go out and get out of their homes and go back to work, if they were to be around other human beings. If you were no longer in isolation, then that's it. The world's going to end. That's what we were being told. Not later than, that was the big news on April 28th. And we've heard a lot of people say that, well, some of these numbers don't seem exactly right. Like when you're looking at USA Today, is the U.S. coronavirus death toll inflated? And they're like, no. This was April 17th. Remember, they had said, no, these numbers are not inflated. You're absolutely wrong. There's more people who are dying than we could possibly imagine. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. And then more news comes out, and this is from USA Today, which was on April 29th. The spike in U.S. deaths and cases flagged as pneumonia suggests even greater COVID-19 impact. That means if you have pneumonia, you've got COVID. And we've seen a lot of people say, well, no matter what's happening in the hospitals, if you're in there, you've got COVID. And I've seen a lot of articles and people commenting, friends and individuals I know personally saying, you know what, everything. They've had friends who went in for COVID-19 testing, some people who had died, who had complications for various sources, and they were told, each and every one of them were told, that's because COVID-19, that's what's killing you. It's COVID-19. That's what killed everybody. In fact, when we look at it from USA Today today, the average deaths in New York are down. We see that we were trending right along with the line in 2020, and then suddenly, right in March, there was this sudden growth. when we suddenly realized COVID-19 was in America. And we saw that in New Jersey, and we saw that in general, in the country, the average number of deaths, 2020, fewer than average deaths were being reported. Up until we suddenly said, hey, COVID-19 exists in the United States, and suddenly the numbers jump. And only recently, relatively recently, we exceeded the average. But otherwise, deaths have been down. Well, that doesn't seem to make sense because we're told everything is going to be COVID related and we're all going to die. We're going to die. You, me, everybody. We're dying because COVID-19 is, the Black Plague. That's why the news media has been talking about it nonstop. COVID-19, COVID-19. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. And I bring that all up because I want to clear the air on some of this stuff a little bit before I go on to anything else. Let's remember that as of, and this is important, okay, as of, I believe it was April 30th, according to CNN, in the world, looking at the corona news, 63,000 people in the United States are said to have died from the coronavirus. That's a huge, huge number. 63,000. According to Johns Hopkins, at this moment in the United States, this is an incredible number of people who have been killed because of coronavirus. And we see Queens, Kings County, that's New York. Thousands upon thousands. Seems absolutely overwhelming. And they say that there's 62,000 people who have died as of May 3rd. 62,000 people have died from coronavirus, according to Johns Hopkins University. Here's the thing that gets me, and not really being talked about in the news. I was looking for it all over the place, and I haven't seen it. Have you noticed that according to the CDC, as of May 4th, 38,000 people have died of COVID in the United States? Let me make sure you see this. So according to Johns Hopkins University, 62,000 people have died because of coronavirus. You can go to their site and see it yourself live right now, as of May 3rd. As of May 4th, according to the Center for Disease Control, 38,000 people have died. Now you may say, well, Mike, what's that mean? I don't understand. Something's wrong. And I would say to you, something's very wrong. Our media has been selling us on this idea that COVID-19 is absolutely deadly, which it is not. They've been selling us on this idea that it's very contagious, which it is. They have instilled in the American people fear, absolute fear of what's going on with COVID-19. But with all of this news, suddenly we have a discrepancy here that there are some 30,000 people, roughly, that we're being told they're supposed to be dead because of COVID-19, and then we're finding out they're not. What is going on? That makes no sense. And we're being told this, and this is the big thing about that. So you can go to the sites and you can see that yourself. But here's the thing. We're being told by people like Governor Cuomo of New York. We're being told by, Michigan, Michigan and Virginia and in Kentucky and Mississippi, that people can't go to churches, we can't congregate, we can't go to work because it's so absolutely deadly. And yet the numbers are in half, which would mean that instead of a 98% survivability, it's 99 point, I don't know, 5 for the nation, that this is absolutely not a crisis, which is terrifying. Considering the things that we have allowed our government to do and the rules and regulations that we have allowed the government to control in our lives, it is terrifying and it's perplexing. And the news media is not addressing that. I was looking for it before I got on the show. I am not seeing anywhere where there is a comment or a statement from the government saying, hey, you know what? Here's why 25, 30,000 missing deaths that we thought, or Johns Hopkins says that there's 62,000 people who've died from coronavirus, and the CDC says no. That's a massive discrepancy. You can't just say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And these are, we're not talking about organizations that are willy-nilly. And no, it's not Fox News saying that. That's the CDC. That's Johns Hopkins that I've just shown you. And you can look it up for yourself. So I have to say to myself, gee, why are there these discrepancies? What could this be coming from? And that's when I start to look at what's the plan to reopen America? New York says, okay, it's going to expire, maybe, possibly, in some parts of New York, we're going to reopen the state, except not one county in New York, or not one region in New York, is able to do so, which is interesting, because we've got Governor Cuomo saying, on the one hand, states will be in charge of reopening New York. States will be able to make the choice. And this is according to WBNG.com as of today at 12:43, just so you know. But they're saying, on one hand, Cuomo is saying the states can, well, let me rephrase that. President Trump has put it on the states because he doesn't have the power to open up the country, just as he did not have the power to shut down the country. So that means we're left with the states. Governor Cuomo has said, oh, well, we got to be afraid. This isn't the time. It's not ready. You don't understand. There's so much fear here. And none of the counties are ready. And you can reopen if you hit these qualifications that I have put forth. So it's not on the states, but it's on the states, so that he has deniability when it comes time for re-election and for raising money to say it's not his fault that he couldn't reopen New York State. The counties weren't ready. The regions weren't ready. It's not his fault. Except, yeah, it really is. Because he shut down the counties. He shut down the state unilaterally because he wanted to. And he could remove the conditions or remove some of the restrictions, in particular, that people can't go to work. Yeah, wear your face mask, keep social distancing, and go back to work. He could say that. He won't say that. And you have to ask why. Or at least I ask, why? Why is that the case? Well, one of the reasons I come up with is the legislature, and I know I'm going to go on to other issues, but I want to cover this in some detail. I want to make sure I get this for you. So, according to the Times Union, so far, they reported this on May 2nd, the legislature basically has been shut down in New York State. Governor Cuomo, in 55 days, has, through emergency power, changed 262 laws. He is able to unilaterally do almost anything he wants. Actually, he can do anything he wants because he's got the power. Now, in 1979, according to the article, the governor was empowered to temporarily suspend any statute, local law or ordinance, orders and rules and regulations or parts thereof for 30 days. That was it. You have the power to do that for 30 days in 1979. But in March, the single party, the Democratic Party that runs New York State, in the state assembly, the state senate, they control it. They make all the rules. Republicans have nothing to do with it. Conservatives, libertarians, nobody else has power except the Democrats. And they said, we're giving all the power to Governor Cuomo, and he is bounded, and here's his limits. He can issue any directive necessary to cope with the disaster. When someone has been given ultimate power, when they are given ultimate power, how many people want to give it up? How many people don't want to have ultimate power? When have we ever seen Governor Cuomo not want to have more power? For how many years has Governor Cuomo been referred to as Emperor Cuomo because of the way that he rules or tries to rule over the people of New York State? And he's got power. And this is not the only state. How many states across the nation are we seeing people, governors, that are just grabbing power for themselves? It's terrifying. This should terrify people. And we're asking them to give up that power, and we're expecting that they're going to give up that power. Do you notice that we're not hearing about these governors saying, oh, well, we don't need the power? Here's the day that we're going to give up that power. Here's the time limit on when we're going to give up power. Here's when we're going to return that. I'm hearing about, Governor Cuomo doesn't even want to end the crisis. He doesn't want people to go back to work until some unknown time in the future, because he has emergency powers, and has yet to mention once, and by the way, I'll give up my emergency powers so that the people, the representatives of the people, can step back in and run the nation. You know, today is May 4th. Hey, Star Wars fans. And what do you see? And this is important. We flattened the curve. We did what we were supposed to. This is why we gave Governor Cuomo and all the governors across the nation, we gave them unlimited power because we needed to flatten the curve. Did you notice it was about, 20 days ago that we stopped hearing people say flatten the curve? Yeah. 1 second, folks. Hello. Hey, Jason, hold on. Oh, we got a caller who's going to be joining us in just a second. Jason, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. You're on live. And I'm going to be talking about Planet of the Humans in a moment. And I know that's something that you asked me to watch the movie and review it. And I do want to talk about that. And we'll segue right into it. But first, do you have anything to say about what I was just speaking about?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, so, I mean, I posted a message before, and I basically, stated about the fact of, the essential employment situation is where, I said, here, Governor Cuomo says, if you want a job, then why don't you go find an essential job? And, I simply stated the fact that, well, what the hell is the point of this complete lockdown if everybody's working? Because the purpose of everybody not working is, to, keep everybody from getting infected. So obviously, blatantly, that proved that it was more about a totalitarian power and having the governors dictate what, businesses are essential in New York State and which ones weren't. And, there's some other points, too, I was going to say that I just found out today when listening to him at the conference, or whatever the heck the
press
thing
conference
he does every day. He was talking about the way that this was going to be kind of the valve, how we're going to let, society go back. And again, this is, picking whatever industries that he feels fit to, allow us to, utilize again. And obviously, certain ones are going to be in the end of the list. But one thing that kind of startled me was just simply, he's saying they're using science and math, and they're still using these grand models that they have to project exactly how they're going to deal with this. So, for example, I was hearing numbers that if like what was it, about 4 people within 100,000 ended up getting this, then they were going to actually lock down certain areas based upon that information. And I was just thinking, I was like, well, if that's the case, I don't understand how we're ever going to be able to open anything up, because obviously people are going to get this, and those numbers will always be hit. And then so what are they going to do? 4 people here, 4 people there. We're going to shut down, and there's just a never-ending amount of this happening over time.
Well,
So I don't know if you heard that same thing today from him or not.
I didn't hear that, but I can say that this may be why we're not hearing him ever say, I give up my emergency powers. And, it's amazing to me that we're listening to so many people. And I know if someone's on the line, and I will come to you, whoever it is who's calling, I will get to you in a second. I got Jason on, and then I'll get to you as well. But I'm looking at this, and I have to say to myself, COVID is never going to go away, COVID-19. Just in the same way that we've seen, why is that? Who is this? We're never going to see COVID-19 go away because we never saw the flu go away. We never saw swine flu go away. We haven't seen Ebola, Zika virus, SARS, measles, mumps. You name it, it's still in the world. These things have not ended. They don't end. Because I don't care if you have a vaccine or not, flu, influenza, which is up on the screen right now from the CDC, there's still people right now who are being affected and dying from that. 5,886 people so far this year from the flu. And we're outside of the flu season. And so when you said, and we know for a fact that the flu, that this is coming back, that we're going to see this again. I'm talking about COVID itself is going to be back, and we're going to see it again this October. It's not even like, ooh, maybe if. It absolutely is. And I thought I had, and I'm just looking for, I try and keep some notes here for all the things. Nope, I got rid of it. But there was a gentleman in New York State that's saying that COVID's going to come back in the fall, and it's going to be twice as deadly as it is now. There's an article from the New York Post on this. Oh, there it is. I do have it. Hang on a second. And here it is. The second coronavirus wave could be deadlier, according to the CDC chief on April 21st of this year. And that he says that there's a possibility that the assault of the virus on our nation next winter will actually be even more difficult than the one we just went through. And that's according to Director Robert Redfield. Okay? That, and you know what you haven't heard? You haven't heard the government say, we're ready for the second wave of coronavirus. We can't even figure out how to reopen the nation. At the same time, they're not even thinking about, are we going to do anything about the next time this hits? Which makes me think there's a lot of leaders right now who have absolutely no intention of allowing COVID to go away and lose their emergency powers. And the media really isn't talking about that. And you know what? That just scares me. You know, Jason?
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm very much terrified about that. I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned that we're not hearing people talk about that, or the fact that we have people like Governor Cuomo, and he's not the only one, that have assumed emergency powers above and beyond what the state allows, the state charter, the Constitution, the state constitution, without any human being. No one has had a chance to say, hey, wait a minute, you don't deserve to have that. The public certainly hasn't had any comment on that whatsoever. Meanwhile, millions of people, we've got 4 million people in New York State, 36 million people in the country. We're losing, who are out of work. We have somewhere between 10 to 17% of small businesses are expected to close forever. That represents approximately 12 to 16 million people who will be out of work permanently. And this guy is just running around going, maybe I'll keep it closed longer, which would mean even more businesses closing. I'm terrified of this. And we're doing this because why not? I don't know. Well, while I have you on, Jason.
Yep.
Planet of the Humans. Let me address that real quick, okay? What are we doing here? All right. Let me address that real quick. You saw the film Planet of the Humans.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think about that? What did you think of it?
Oh, yeah. I think you're breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. You're perfect on my side.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, well, my opinion is that, I was more just simply amazed by the fact that Michael Moore, of all individuals, pretty much ripped apart every single green energy out there. And in my mind, it pretty much wiped out the Green New Deal's current agenda, which, was to go for the solars, the winds, the biofuel, and all this is all that reason and all that push was, in their mind is to reduce carbon emissions. And, by simply gutting that entire thing, I mean, it really put them in a position it's like, what's the next step? Well, what are we doing now? I mean, how now can we save the planet? Because even though they destroyed the things that their religion stands for, the religion is still there, meaning that, they still do believe in climate change. They do still believe in this carbon emissions having this huge, massive impact on. And in the end, you realize this, and I saw this in another interview. I mean, the thing that their solution to the problem is euthanizing people. And it just is like, okay, so I was I sent you a joke text, and I said what, the Green New Deal's got to be Operation Super Abortion, because without solar, wind, and biofuel and all those green energies that they were trying to push out, there's nothing more to the green movement than just basically wiping people off the planet. And that was my perspective. And I think there's just so many ironies in this that I was able to, just continue to connect, and, I could give you an example where, Michael Moore is just like, okay, he destroys the green movement when it came to these different energies, right? But then, what's the basis of their religion? Their basis of their religion is the science, the foundation of the science, right? That tells them, that carbon emissions are causing this climate change. And yet here he proves that they've been lied to on all these other forms, right? Just, from from wind and solar and all this. And then, he still stands and goes, hey, guess what? We have to follow the science. And I'm like, you kidding me, right? You do realize that the people who created the science had an agenda, and that agenda was, to, manipulate society in a certain way, from this. And it's just, and there's kind of like, there's still that wall there that you're just like, are you just not seeing it, Michael? Or Michael Moore, I mean, and it's just, you're like, what? At some point he's got to, further wake up, which, like I said, he did, and it was amazing that they actually even went this far and ripped these energy sources apart.
Well, let me ask a couple things. One, did you see my review response?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was really important. And for a lot of people who haven't seen this, Planet of the Humans was executive produced. It's a documentary executive produced by Michael Moore. And it was done by a man named Jeff Gibbs. And they were talking about the lies that have been sold to the public on green energy, renewable energy. And they go through pretty much everything. Solar, wind, didn't talk about geothermal, didn't mention anything about nuclear, ethanol, biomass. They hate it. They don't. He pointed out all of the things that, quite honestly, Republicans and conservatives and independents have been pointing out about this forever. It doesn't work. It's not helpful. And how many times have we seen that the Leaf, the Prius, the Volt, we have shown conclusively with scientific evidence that they are not good for the environment. In fact, they hurt the environment. They are worse. And Mr. Moore helped to get this documentary, Planet of the Humans, out to say, yeah, in fact, that's absolutely true. Republicans, Democrats, everybody who's against the climate change fanaticism is absolutely correct. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is absolutely wrong, and that this is worse. Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old who hasn't finished high school, isn't a scientist and doesn't know what she's talking about. This is actually bad for people. But the thing that got me is it really isn't about anything to do with the green energy. Planet of the Humans is about killing people. It's about killing the population of Earth. It is trying to justify genocide. And I think that's one of the strongest things, most important things that people can take away from it. It's about justifying genocide. And let me ask you, do you think, Jason from Binghamton, do you think I'm right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to show you. I want to say something about an irony as well too. Is that in the end of the movie there was a few clips. I mean, there's this orangutan that's dying, and it's dying because of they're pulling resources out of the land that happen to be for green energy. And so the green energy, whether it was solar panels or wind turbines or whatever the heck the natural resource they needed, apparently they had to clear cut and do whatever they did, and it caused this death of this orangutan, right?
Yeah.
And it really, and even when you read the comments, afterwards, people were really just, torn up on the emotional level of this. And then there's another image there. There's a child, within one of these countries. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old, right? I mean, he happens to be black. And
of course. Of course.
Yeah, and the thing is that they get that emotional and they say, look at these evil corporations are causing this guy and all the suffering this kid has. But then the back of the thing is that the irony is that that kid's suffering, but with their policies, that kid wouldn't even exist. I mean, their premise is we want to abort you. That kid shouldn't even be existing. To prevent that kid from suffering or have a suffering life, their solution is to have him never exist.
Yes.
And they basically see that kid as a parasite, increasing, the problem and this, this massive climate change and global warming. So here it is, the heartache. We're supposed to be bleeding hearts go, oh my God, it's so sad. Look at this poor kid. Meanwhile, they just want to freaking bring him out in the, field and blow his brains out because he's hurting the environment. He's destroying the world, His existence, is contrary to, their ultimate agenda, and it just that shows you exactly where the mentality of the green movement is. And it actually, more, if you really look at history and you look at Marxism and you look at the communists and you look at what they believe in life and this nihilism that they have, I mean, it intertwines so beautifully, to show how evil, communism is and how, the green energy and this whole movement and what it really stands for and the exposure of it. And, it goes even farther than that, though, is that in this, there's a follow-up question and answer that he does after the fact of this this documentary. And one of the things he says, geez, he says we really need, and he doubles down on the Green New Deal. He goes, we really got to double down on the Green New Deal. That's why we got to make sure that, we get these, Bernie Sanders and his AOCs out. And I'm thinking, okay, you just destroyed your entire Green Deal. So what do you have left? What are you trying to change? Basically what it is to this point, they just want to decide, now it's going to really, the decision is that who do we kill? Who do we, get rid of?
That's what I don't like about Planet of Humans. It's setting up, and I mean, they're playing. The orangutan is supposed to be a visual symbolism of human beings, and we're destroying the planet. We're killing ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. And they're showing, of course, they only show black kids. What about the Chinese kids who are in the sweatshops? What about the kids who are in doing the mining well, they showed a couple of places where they showed that's where they were showing black kids, Africa. But they're not really dealing with what they're looking at. They're trying to find a way. I mean, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie is all about, hey, the only answer is to kill people. Human beings cannot be trusted to live. We're going to destroy the planet. He starts the movie off with the message: human beings are cockroaches. We destroy everything. We can't be trusted, and we are devolving, and we are horrible. So we need to get rid of people because we're destroying the planet. We're destroying ourselves. We need to have less people. They want the bubonic plague. They want a COVID-19. That's what they want. And it terrifies me. But, and I see that throughout the entire film. It's very nihilistic. And I went through various points in this, and it's a message that keeps coming back. The only answer is, since you can't do it with solar, you can't do it with wind, you can't do it with ethanol, the only thing you can do is get rid of people. Billions of people. That's a terrifying thought. And that just goes along with, well, with the Green New Deal. How do you fix everything? You got to get rid of people. It's in the Green New Deal. It only works. It can only work is if you get rid of people. And I've been waiting for the eco-fanatics to finally be honest and say, the only thing that works is you have to go back to the Stone Age and you just have to kill billions of people. It's the only way it can work. But I wanted to get into that. And Jason, I thank you. And I thank you for asking me to review this so that I can see that movie and to let people know. And I'm very interested, and I can't wait. I've yet to hear a single eco-fanatic, one of the Greta Thunberg supporters, Bill Nye, to come out and say, well, no, this isn't true, because they can't. They can't say that the facts are incorrect. The movie was very correct. I've been doing a decade of research on this. The movie isn't wrong. None of those things work. Green energy is not effective. But no one's addressed it, because if you have to address it, then you have to address the genocide it's promoting. And they just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about that. But I know there's someone else who had called. I want to try and reach them back. So, Jason, I'm going to keep going, and then maybe we'll call back in a little bit, or text or leave messages as we go through. And definitely leave it on YouTube as well, so other people can see some of the questions and comments you have. Okay?
Sure, sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in.
Yep. All right. Yep. Bye.
And again, folks, I want to remind everyone that, yes, you too can call in and make comments here on the show. Let us know what you think, because I'm not the perfect answer. I don't have all the answers. I'm not even going to pretend like I do. But a lot of people do have answers. A lot of people do have questions, and hopefully we can get the answers for you. Hang on one second. I'm going to check on one of the other calls, make sure it's not just a spam call. Yep, it was spam. Well, that happens. It was one of those spam calls. Oh, shame. I was hoping that it was a real phone call. So that's Planet of the Humans. And I do recommend people check out the video I put on it. And I go through all of the different things that they were talking about. And their only conclusion is genocide. I think that's terrifying. And it seems to fit with everything that we're seeing these days. Just more and more ways to destroy the nation, to destroy the country, to destroy the world, and reshape it in their mindset. Again, to go back, that's part of the reason why I believe that you're seeing governors like Governor Cuomo who are saying, hey, I have unlimited power, and he can do whatever he wants. And he wants to break New York. At the same time, we're seeing that there are being proposals that are being put out there, like in the Forbes article, which came out on April 22nd, about some of the proposals that are being put out there. In particular, one that comes from Rashida Tlaib, as I recall, who is a congresswoman from Michigan, where they're saying, hey, we've got to pay everyone $2,000 plus $1,000 per month for an entire year. This is insane. And they're going to pay this to everyone. Okay? They're going to give it to taxpayers. They're going to give it to kids. They're going to give it to non-citizens and people who do not have bank accounts, social security numbers, or permanent addresses. That means, and everyone who's in a territory of the United States, a protectorate of the United States, everyone, basically anyone in the world, please come into the United States, show up, and you'll get it. And I do mean, just walk on into the United States and you will get this. Because an in-person pickup would apply to those who do not have a permanent address, undocumented individuals, and temporary visitors to the United States whose stay exceeds 3 months. You want to talk about breaking the nation? You want to talk about a stupid idea? There's a stupid idea. And that comes from Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Break the world. Break the nation. Bankrupt America. Remember, they want to redistribute your income. They want to take your money and give it to other people. And the best way to take your money and to give it to someone else, well, of course, the best way to do that is to give everyone your money, to bankrupt the nation. I mean, think about that. You could literally walk across the border. Remember, Democrats want open borders. They were upset that that President Trump was closing the borders to China. They said he was a racist for doing it. They were upset about they cannot stand anyone closing the borders. So you literally, under a Democrat control, you could walk across the border into California with Governor Newsom, walk on up. If this were to be passed by Rashida Tlaib, you would be able to walk across the border, walk into a government office, say, please give me $2,000. They will give you a debit card. Here's your $2,000, and they will put $1,000 per month on that debit card. Because you walked into the door, you're undocumented, you don't need any document or proof, and you don't have a U.S. address, and they will give you $2,000 American, $1,000 a month, $12,000, so $14,000 American, just because you showed up. Do you think that will make more people enter the United States illegally or cut that number down? Do you think that would encourage illegal aliens or that would prevent them? Do you think that would create a bigger burden on America or reduce it? Because I think the answer is pretty obvious. The answer is that it's going to be worse for America. It's going to cost us more money. Because who would not want to come over here? Especially if you live in a horrible part of the world, like in South America, which is pretty bad. I mean, look at Venezuela. You could stay in Venezuela, where you are starving to death, where the government is killing its own people, where mumps and measles have had an exponential explosion in the population. You could stay there, or you could walk to America and get $14,000. Which one would most people do? Which one do you think makes more sense? And you don't need a document. You don't need proof of citizenship. You definitely don't need to speak English because they don't want that. And you can use the money for anything. According to Rashida Tlaib, you can use it to buy anything. Stores, online, make cash withdrawals at ATMs. You can do anything you want with that, which, that wouldn't cause any kind of corruption. The gangs that control Mexico and South America wouldn't have people walking on up into the United States to get $14,000 American for free and make those people give it back to them or kill them. The people who are willing to put drugs into the American system to sell the opioids that are killing as many people as probably COVID is killing, they're not going to go out and say, get us that $14,000 or I'll kill you and your family. Go get the money for us. Are you kidding me? Have we thought about this? Has anyone thought about that? And the way she wants to pay for it? we're going to make a coin. We're going to make $1 trillion coins. In other words, she's going to create inflation. She's just going to print money, which means that that's inflationary. When you have that much money, your money's worthless. That's the Weimar Republic. We've seen this happen in the world before, where they're just printing money and the money is worthless. It's like having monopoly money. You just throw money at it and the money becomes worth less and less and less. And in the Weimar Republic, we had at one point, what was it? It was you were using wheelbarrows to pay for bread. Wheelbarrows full of money to pay for bread. The money was worth less by the afternoon from where it started in the morning because they were printing so much money. And she wants to have $1 trillion coins being printed to pay for this free money for illegal aliens so that they can go and have $14,000 and doesn't expect any corruption on that whatsoever. She doesn't think that anyone in the world would take advantage of that. You could say that that's ignorant. I say that that is just ludicrous. That's not just ignorant, that's willful. The consequences are obvious. But she doesn't want to recognize them. And she's not alone, because there's also Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who's more than happy to make sure that the COVID testing and treatment and money that she's calling for, along with all the other Democrats, should be given to illegal aliens who shouldn't be in the nation to start with, because she wants an open border and she wants them to get the money. Is that more of a reason or less of a reason to come into America illegally? And that's something that, again, Cuomo, Emperor Cuomo, more than happy to have illegal aliens in New York State. New York State is a sanctuary state. So this is a plan. This is a consistent system from start to finish. Open borders, unlimited control, unlimited amounts of money, and break the system. Destroy people's lives. And when you destroy them and the system isn't working, just like Michael Moore is suggesting, go out and kill them. Kill the people. The wrong people. The people they don't like. The people kind of like, well, Republicans, Democrats, people who believe in their guns. Hello, remember Cuomo? Governor Cuomo with his, if you believe in your guns, your God, get out of New York. If you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, get out of New York. See, with that same person who was telling people get out of New York, and 1.8 million of them did and took their businesses with them, which is why New York State lost $8 billion before COVID existed, even once. Before everyone knew there was a thing as COVID-19, New York State had already lost $8 billion and 1.8 million people. And with that man who said, get out of my state, and decided to destroy the economy of New York State, do you think with unlimited power, that man would be hard-pressed to say, hey, we've got to kill a bunch of people for the environment? Maybe we can start with those very same conservatives who are holding on to the guns that are preventing the government from having absolute control. That we want to kill the people who are the conservatives and libertarians who are saying, hey, no, you've gone too far. I don't see that as being a leap, especially when he's getting backed up by people like Rashida Tlaib and people like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. I just don't see them being the ones who would say no. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, there's a 2020 election, and so that'll take care of it. It'll be fine. Because, they're not going to be, as much as people are talking about Cuomo, he's popular and all that, he's not going to run for president. He's not going to win. And Kirsten Gillibrand, she dropped out of the race for president. So Elizabeth Warren, she may be vice president, which effectively, in this world, with the age and temperament of Joe Biden, she would become president. And we know she's a progressive. She's right there with Bernie Sanders in the progressive ideals. And I would tell you that that doesn't make it any better. It actually makes it worse. The progressives are like Michael Moore. They're the people who are the eco-fanatics. They're like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They want you to die because that's good for the planet. It doesn't matter if it's bad for you. It's good for the planet. And they hate conservatives. And that's Kamala Harris is the runner-up. No better than Elizabeth Warren on these ideas. She's a woman who said she would forcefully take people's guns, destroy the Second Amendment, destroy the Constitution so that she could take your firearms. She said that on the campaign trail. It's part of the reason why she's not on the campaign trail. People realize that's insane. You can't just take away people's rights because you don't like it. Kamala Harris thinks she can. You got the Georgia gubernatorial candidate, Stacey Abrams, who was so absolute in her view that anything that didn't match it was racism. She didn't win her race, racism. There was higher voting. There were more people who voted in the election in Georgia and voted against her than previous numbers. Yet more people registering and going out and voting, and she lost. And so that means it was racist because somehow people were denied the ability to vote even though more people went out and voted. And she knows it was all Republicans that did it. It's the Republicans that stopped people from going out and vote, even though more people came out and voted, and they voted against her. And we're looking at Amy Klobuchar, who, you know, in comparison to everyone else I just mentioned, is probably the most sensible person in the group, and she isn't sensible at all. Terrifying. I mean, these are people who are terrifying because, you know, not one of these people I just mentioned has come out and said, hey, Joe Biden, you know, that sexual abuse thing you did, you know, don't worry about it. It's okay. We're not upset about that. They're not saying that, hey, you know, maybe there's a problem with all the sexual assaults he's been claimed with. Mind you, there's 7 cases of sexual assault being alleged against Joe Biden, not just Tara Reade, but Tara Reade and another 6 or 7 more. And Tara Reade is credible. Not just because she's a woman, but because it's been investigated. You know, in The Intelligencer, who came out with the article on May 1st, 3 days ago on Friday, they went through and looked at several of the women's groups who were absolutely, definitively against Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh, from being nominated because of a non-credible, non-verifiable source, Christine Blasey Ford, who said, you know, something happened 40 years ago that no one remembers, no one ever heard of, and no one ever witnessed. And they said, well, that was reason enough for Kavanaugh not to be put onto the Supreme Court. And yet, Joe Biden has, as they mentioned in The Intelligencer, the accounts, Tara Reade, talking about her accusations against Joe Biden, it has been corroborated by The Intercept and the Business Insider. The New York Times and the Washington Post have all been able to corroborate parts of her story, as she has said it, parts of it, not all of it. No one has been able to disprove her claim. And the women's groups are all just sitting back and they're saying, well, we don't want to talk about it right now. Planned Parenthood, Times Up, Emily's List, they're just all sitting back going, well, we don't want to really talk about that right now. That they don't believe in this. It's terrifying. I mean, other than RAINN, which is a anti-sexual violence group, RAINN, they came out, though. They were probably the most strongest about this. We appreciate Vice President Biden finally addressing Tara Reade's allegations. These allegations deserve a rigorous investigation, and we urge Vice President Biden to release any and all records that may be relevant, including those housed at the University of Delaware, in addition to any Senate records, House records at the National Archives. We urge him, his campaign, and former staff to cooperate fully and provide complete transparency. Guess what? That ain't happening. That is not happening right now. But we have seen women all over the place. Nancy Pelosi, who came out and said she thought Joe Biden had made the perfect, she stands by him because he made an appropriate response to Tara Reade. This has been around for a month. I know everyone's been talking about COVID and COVID virus, and people have been so absorbed by that they didn't notice that for about a month now, there has been this allegation against Joe Biden. That there is a question about Joe Biden, not even just a question, but an allegation against him on sexual abuse. And you know what? They haven't done anything about it. Okay, I've just received a link about, which I won't be able to look at right this second, about nuclear power and Planned Parenthood is the solution to the problem. Michael Moore, this is going back to talking about the Planet of Humans documentary, and how Michael Moore has doubled down on the New Green Deal. Okay, and so that's a comment I received from a text as we're speaking here. So I am paying attention. Like I said, you can always call in or text at 607-242-1582. You can send me comments by text as well as calling. You can also reach us on Facebook, YouTube, and reach us. Oh, Facebook would be Voss Political Commentary. And by the way, please don't forget, subscribe, because that keeps the show going. And more importantly, it beats the shadow banning algorithms of Facebook, of YouTube, of social media, where they don't want you to even consider any of the things we're talking about. They don't want you to hear any of this. God forbid you hear someone who has an opinion different of the one that they have approved of, because that's not good. You might think, and that would be horrendous. I'm telling you, folks, I'm really concerned. We've got Joe Biden, who has been credibly facing sexual allegation charges. We are watching the very same people who, without evidence, without proof, said that, and they said this many times under the Me Too movement, many times have said, you know what? All we need is a woman saying that this happened and you need to be removed. They removed Senator Al Franken from the Senate for the same thing. No proof, just an allegation, and that was good enough. He had to go. They tried to do the same thing to a Supreme Court justice. They still want to do that to the Supreme Court justice. Without proof, without verification, without any corroboration. Just because she said so. And told us that, remember Senator Hirono of Hawaii? And she said, shut up. If you're a man, just shut up and accept. Women are always right. We have to believe women, period. Full stop. She said it, it must be true. Tara Reade is saying it. I don't hear Senator Hirono saying that we have to believe women and that's it. Stop. I don't hear Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who said we have to believe women. She believes women without any corroboration, and therefore we must punish the men. Well, Joe Biden is a man. Joe Biden has 7 allegations against him, and there is corroboration. We actually have some credible evidence, secondary as it may be, which is 10,000 times more evidence than we had with Blasey Ford, and now they're saying, well, maybe not. Don't worry. You know what? Joe Biden's a really good guy. We like Joe Biden. So give him a pass. It's okay. Because he's Joe Biden. Because he's a Democrat. And being a Democrat is good enough of a reason. I mean, Keith Ellison was able to bypass his sexual abuse allegations because he's a Democrat. And obviously Al Franken was not loved enough in the Democratic Party to be able to withstand this. Keith Ellison did. Joe Biden apparently is. So it depends on which Democrat you are, how good of a Democrat you are, how much of a progressive you are, and how well can you help the progressive ideology. And if you're good enough with that, if you're powerful enough, if you're just in the right place to be used by the party, well, then they'll absolve just about anything and everything you do. No wonder it took so long for Harvey Weinstein to be caught. And this stuff is all connected, I believe. Because if you're following it, from the questions that we have about COVID-19, where we're being told that we should be terrified, fear. You have to fear COVID, even though we have sources that are saying, well, it's 63,000, and then we have even more credible government sources that are saying, no, it's 38,000. We're hearing people talk about everyone is getting it, it's contagious, and leaving out the fact that it's survivable. That doesn't mean we don't take precautions, but it means we don't instill fear. But people are using that fear to take ultimate power, to take emergency power with no end in sight, and ignore any other conversation, any other question that may come up that could possibly disrupt their ability to continue to have power and to destroy the country by bankrupting it, by giving more power to people they don't represent, illegal aliens. It's an amazing thing. It's a terrifying thing, I believe. You can tell me I'm wrong, and I would love to hear it. But remember, this COVID crisis started because we were told we have to flatten the curve, that we have to prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed. That was the reason why we had to give ultimate power without question, without end, to our elected leaders, especially the Democrats. And once they did that, we have flattened the curve. We have prevented hospitals from being overwhelmed. New York State has more ventilators than it needs and has always had more ventilators than we needed. We have more bed spaces than we have needed. Always. And now, when people are saying, we flattened the curve, we have more ventilators than we need, we have more bed spaces than we need. We'd like to go back to work. We'd like to have our life back. And they're saying, no, you're still afraid. You should still be afraid. And very much like the meme says here on Star Wars, May the 4th be with you, pray they're not altering the deal any further. I could just hear that sound from Darth Vader. Pray that I don't alter the deal any further, because they don't care. I don't see care. I don't see concern. I see power. I see people who are grabbing power and using that power for their advantage. That's exactly what I see. I do not see this as being a benefit for anyone. I do not see this being done to help people. By the way, speaking of helping people, I just want you to remember that there is, if you feel like you may want to harm yourself or that, life is too much, don't forget, there is the National Suicide Hotline, 800-273-8255. If the fear that has been instilled in you feels like too much, please contact the National Suicide Hotline. I've been talking about that since February. I continue to. This isn't something new. This has always been a concern, and it always should be. So please, if you or someone you know, depressed, having a difficult time with this isolation, this forced isolation, this solitary confinement, please contact the 800-273-8255 and talk to someone. There are people there, even right now, they're available to help you. And we know that a lot of people, there has been an increase in domestic abuse. There's been an increase in the number of suicides. There's been an increase in the number of drug abuse and alcohol abuse. People, please reach out if you're having problems. Please go out there, get help. It is important. It is vital to be able to get help. And I'll show you. You can also go to on my Vasquez for Broom. Yes, I'm running for an elected office. More importantly, we have a listing here on coronavirus, our community versus fear, where we have listed several, both videos as well as information on being able to get suicide prevention, domestic abuse help, suicide and substance abuse help, food from CHOW and other organizations, as small business help as well. Please contact these groups to be able to get help because it is important. And that's at the Vasquez for Broom site. And it's under the coronavirus, our community versus fear. You can go right there to that page and you'll be able to get the information, the phone numbers right there because it's important. Folks, I, like you, am looking at all this and saying, what's going on? What is going on? And I don't know. It's terrifying. It's shocking. It is a problem. It's a big problem. And I'm paying attention to it all. Our media is not telling us all. What we are getting from the media is you don't need to pay attention to that. Don't look. Just listen to us. Because the media, like government's here to take care of it. Government's got the answer. The only people who can answer this are the government. The people with the emergency powers forever who are destroying the Constitution, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, that are denying you the ability to go out to a church and pray in your car with the windows rolled up. Think I'm lying? Look it up. Kentucky, Mississippi. Yeah, they're doing that. Who are telling people you can't be on a beach by yourself and surf, but you can go to Walmart that happens to be filled with people. Because being on the beach by yourself, that's not safe. That's not approved. Going to Walmart with 50, 100 other people, that's okay. That's safe. That you can't vote in person because, that's not safe. You can't have primaries like in New York, which just got canceled. You can't have a primary because that's not safe. But you can go to the grocery store and that's okay. You can't plant food, Michigan. You can't plant food. You can't get seeds to make your own food because that's not allowed. Because of executive power, because of emergency power. Folks, we got a lot of problems going on here. The media isn't talking about all of them. But we need to talk about them. And maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe you, looking at all the sources and all of the items I've shown will be linked in the description here so that you can look it up and read it all over for yourself to make your own conclusions. But maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe there's something I missed here. Maybe there's a good reason why Governor Cuomo, and I think it's Whitmer out of Michigan and Virginia and Kentucky and Mississippi, maybe there's a good reason why these guys have ultimate power. Maybe they're not the Darth Vader in this message. Okay, explain to me how. Because right now, all I hear is the very reason why you got the emergency power, which you probably shouldn't have had in the first place, well, now you're keeping it, you're altering the deal. And I'm not hearing why. In fact, we're getting a lot of evidence right now that's telling us that things aren't nearly as bad as we heard they were. This isn't nearly the problem they told when almost half the number of people we're being told were affected aren't. Yeah, that's a question. And you don't have to believe me, but you should wonder, why does the CDC tell you one thing and Johns Hopkins tells you another, and the answer that everyone's quoting is Johns Hopkins, not the CDC? Gotta wonder about that. I don't know, folks. I look forward to seeing your comments and your questions and your texts, and reach out. You can reach us here. Again, you can call, leave a message at 607-242-1582. You can also reach us at Voss Political Commentary on Facebook, at MV Consult on Twitter, or, of course, here on No Soundbites Allowed on YouTube. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. And until the next time, please, everyone, be very well.